The ego is the accumulation of our past experiences. It is what allows us to interact with the physical and spiritual worlds. It controls how we act and respond to situations. We lose pieces of our soul when it exerts dominance without our awareness. The ego is an entity that strives to survive. For its survival, it will connect with us to the point we relinquish our grip over ourselves. But it also divides and separates, identifying what it is and what it is not. For as long as humans can speak, we have used words in order to identify objects around us and how we feel internally. The ego weaponizes words in order to limit our experiences merely to the definition of the words we use. Past, present, and future are words we use to separate events in our lives. Ego uses past to make us regret our past actions, paralyzed pondering, what if we've made different decisions? Anxiety comes from trying to control and predict the future. Trying to grasp and control the future before it comes is worthless when all your control is in the now. We must accept our past shortcomings in order to bring about a better future. The more we fixate on specific outcomes, negative or positive, we will manifest it into fruition. With awareness firmly planted in the present, we then can take control over our lives. Social anxiety ultimately comes from the fear of expressing ourselves in our truest form. The ego stops us from being ourselves because it is afraid of criticism from other people. Creating illusionary rules in order to be accepted, we suppress our unique form of expression. The more we concern ourselves with the opinions of others, the more we reinforce the control it has over us. Others will judge us no matter how we act. Some people filled with ego are at war with themselves internally. They judge themselves for their flaws, so they release this externally to others, judging and critiquing all of others' flaws and weaknesses. That is out of our control. The only control we have is how we let that influence us. Will we allow others' judgment to control the way we act and express ourselves? Happiness and sadness are two sides of the same coin. As emotional beings, we tend to only want to feel positive emotions, while we distract and suppress ourselves from negative emotions. Negative emotions should be used as fuel in order to help us bring about positive changes in our lives. It's okay to feel regret and pain. It shows us what we should change and what we care about. If we distract ourselves with pleasure, negative emotions will only be temporarily suppressed and eventually come back stronger. The ego casts blame on external events or people for its own inadequacy. If the external world is to blame for how we feel, we take away all agency and responsibility from ourselves. We must be responsible fully for our internal world if we wish to control our external. It is impossible to fully rid ourselves of the ego. Only through close self-observation can we free ourselves from its grasps. The ego should be used as a tool instead of using us as a puppet to live out its desires. Along your journey of self-realization and understanding of the ego, you may develop something called a spiritual ego, believing yourself to be greater, wiser than others, just because you're aware of yourself and your unconsciousness. In reality, you are worse, because you are aware and continue to live in ignorance. In your journey to dissolve the ego, you have created another. Other people's ignorance is not for you to judge nor to try to change. Some people are just ignorant to their own ignorance, or just don't want to change. Make sure you are aware enough of yourself in order to not let your ego get triggered by theirs, because this will just create a cycle of unconscious reactivity instead of conscious response. The ego strives for survival, so much so that it will find any means necessary to divide and separate people to weed out threats. We live in a habitual state of anxiety where we believe everything and everyone around us is out to get us. This does not allow for people to be able to be themselves nor want to have care for others. If people were only conscious enough to diminish the grip it has over our thoughts and emotions. If we were more conscious, we would realize we are the whole universe, just observing itself from a different perspective. The universe is a vast ocean. We are but drops of water carried by the waves of time. The tides of time wait for no one. We must learn to flow with it.